The Force is a mystery, yet for Sheev Palpatine, it was a weapon waiting to be wielded. Discovered on Naboo, young Sheev was brought to the Jedi Temple, his potential blindingly bright. Under the begrudging mentorship of Master Higo Damask, known to few as Plagueis, the boy learned that the light side was not just a philosophy, but a tool for absolute dominance. While his peers struggled with the core tenets of detachment, Sheev mastered them with terrifying ease. He projected the image of a humble, dedicated monk, all while hiding a predatory ambition beneath his robes. He didn't just study the Jedi Code, he weaponized it. He saw the stagnation of the Republic not as a failure of the system, but as a lack of strong, visionary leadership. Plagueis watched from the shadows, confused by his apprentice's genuine commitment to the Order. He had intended to corrupt the boy, but Sheev was too clever. He realized that the Jedi Council held the true keys to the galaxy's infrastructure. By excelling in every trial, Sheev made himself indispensable. He became the poster child for the next generation of protectors, his every action designed to build influence. He wasn't playing the game of a Jedi, he was playing the game of a ruler. As the Senate began to look toward the temple for guidance, Sheev Palpatine stood at the center, ready to shape the galaxy to his design. But even the brightest light casts a shadow, and in the deepest archives, he discovered a secret that would change everything. Palpatine's ascent was nothing short of miraculous. His diplomatic brilliance on mid-rim worlds earned him accolades that usually took decades to acquire. Within the council chambers, he was a soothing voice of reason. He framed the galaxy's political unrest not as a tragedy, but as a grand opportunity for the Jedi to lead with renewed purpose. The Council, blinded by his aura of selfless service, fast-tracked his elevation. When he took his seat among the Masters, the political landscape shifted instantly. He wasn't just a powerful Jedi. He was the primary liaison between the Temple and the Senate. He used his position to rewrite the relationship between the two, subtly centralizing power in his own hands. He spoke of unity while sowing discord among those who dared to oppose his vision. Senators who questioned his motives found themselves embroiled in scandals, while those who supported him were catapulted to influence. He was the perfect politician, hidden behind the mask of a saint. He maneuvered with such grace that even the most cynical masters believed he was the chosen one's successor. However, the weight of his facade began to crack. Behind his serene expression, the temptation of the ancient archives grew. He began spending his nights exploring forbidden vaults, searching for truths the Council had long suppressed. He felt the pull of a dark energy, ancient and hungry. His secret obsession was nearing a boiling point, and he realized he needed a catalyst to finally break free from the Jedi's suffocating moral constraints. Power, in the hands of the ignorant, is wasted. In the hands of Palpatine, it was a catalyst for transformation. While the Jedi focused on meditation, Palpatine focused on the forbidden knowledge of the Sith archives. He discovered the lost arts of life, manipulation, the power to defy nature itself. He became obsessed. He saw the mortality of his fellow Jedi as a flaw in their design. If they could not conquer death, they could never truly secure the peace they preached. This was the justification he needed. He wasn't turning to evil. He was pursuing the ultimate good, the preservation of life, at any cost. He began conducting secret experiments on the fringe of the Outer Rim, utilizing the dark side to animate, heal, and command. He told himself it was for the greater good. Yet the hunger in his eyes spoke otherwise. The more he learned, the more the Jedi Council seemed like children playing with toys while he grasped the secrets of the gods. He masked his growing darkness with an even greater display of light, performing miracles of diplomacy that seemed to border on the supernatural. The Council grew wary, yet they were too dependent on his results to act. He had become the engine of the Republic. He was no longer just a Jedi. He was a predator in waiting, and the galaxy was his hunting ground. He only needed one final push, a moment of profound crisis, to reveal his true form to the universe. the Separatist crisis erupted, threatening to tear the galaxy apart. While other Jedi faltered, paralyzed by their own rigid pacifism, Palpatine acted with decisive, brutal efficiency. As Chancellor, he authorized the formation of a massive military force, not to destroy his enemies, but to bring them to their knees, under the authority of the Republic. He led from the front lines, his lightsaber a blur of precise, devastating light. He wasn't just a general, he was an inspiration. His tactical genius turned the tide of battle, and his charisma held the shaky coalition of planetary systems together. The people saw him not as a politician, but as a savior. He used the war to justify absolute executive power. He bypassed the Senate and the Council whenever necessary, claiming that the emergency demanded immediate, singular action. He moved with the backing of the populace, who were terrified of the chaos. The Jedi Order, caught in the momentum, found themselves marching to his drum. He had effectively turned the Order into his personal army. He was the architect of a new republic, built on the foundations of strength and order. Yet, the war had taken a toll. He had lost trusted allies, and the frailty of his own vision was becoming apparent. He realized that to truly save the galaxy, he needed more than just armies. He needed a power that could command reality. And that power was waiting for him on the desolate dunes of the ancient world of Korriban. The mission to Korriban was meant to be a retrieval of ancient artifacts to aid the war effort. Instead, it became a trap. Palpatine led a team of elite Jedi into the heart of the Sith tombs, where an ancient, lingering consciousness sought to crush their minds. His companions fell, one by one, to the psychic assault. As the final tomb collapsed, Palpatine found himself alone with the dying remains of his closest student. He had the power to save them, but only if he embraced the dark arts he had studied for years. The Jedi Code demanded he let them pass, to accept the will of the Force, but Palpatine refused to be a slave to fate. He reached out, not with the force of the Jedi, but with the raw, consuming power of the Sith. He tore at the fabric of life, pulling his student back from the brink. The effort nearly shattered him, but it worked. He had done the impossible. However, the cost was high. The dark energy he unleashed permanently stained his presence in the Force. He had broken the ultimate taboo. He realized then that the Jedi Order was not a guardian of life, but a cage that stifled the true potential of the galaxy. He looked at his rescued student, who stared at him with newfound, primal terror. Palpatine knew he could no longer hide. The time for secrets was over. It was time to purge the rot from the core of the Republic. Returning from Korriban, Palpatine didn't report the incident. Instead, he initiated the Great Purge from within. He framed the Council for the catastrophic failure of the mission, using his immense influence to isolate the leaders he knew would never submit to his vision of a stronger, Sith-influenced Republic. It was a surgical strike. One by one, those who questioned his methods were stripped of their rank, exiled, or mysteriously silenced. He didn't use violence at first. He used the law. He convinced the Senate that the Council had become a radical, dangerous entity that threatened the very stability of the galaxy. He filled the power vacuum with those loyal to him individuals who believed in his philosophy of absolute order. The Jedi Temple was no longer a sanctuary of peace, but a fortress of command. He turned the institution that had raised him into a weapon of state control, purging the old guard with ruthless efficiency. The transformation was absolute. The Order was no longer a group of guardians. They were the enforcement arm of the Chancellor's new, iron-fisted administration. He had dismantled the legacy of thousands of years in mere months. He walked through the silent, empty halls of the Council chambers, the mantle of his new authority draped over his shoulders. He was the sole master now, but he knew the galaxy would not accept his change without a fight. The stage was set for the final, total consolidation of his power across the stars. The galaxy watched in awe and fear as the Jedi Order was reborn. Palpatine stood on the steps of the Senate, the title of Grand Master now inseparable from that of Supreme Executive. He wore the robes of a Jedi, yet his presence radiated a cold, absolute authority that transcended the old binary of light and dark. He reorganized the galaxy into sectors, each governed by a high Jedi commander. These leaders, trained in his specific, demanding philosophy, ensured that peace was maintained at any cost. There was no more crime, no more war, and no more dissent. Stability was the law, and Palpatine was the architect. He had created a utopia of order, but it was a quiet, suffocating one. The people were safe, but they were also stripped of their autonomy. He had successfully merged the ascetic discipline of the Jedi with the uncompromising dominance of the Sith, creating a hybrid force that was impossible to resist. He ruled from Coruscant, a central nervous system for 1 trillion lives. He was the sun around which all of galactic civilization orbited. He had achieved what no emperor or Jedi master had ever dared: the unification of the galaxy under a single, eternal will. But even an eternal ruler must face the ghosts of his past. Rumors of a resistance, hidden in the deepest reaches of the Outer Rim, began to reach his ears. A flicker of something old, something he thought he had extinguished forever, began to glow in the dark. 1,000 years of peace. That was the promise Palpatine made to the galaxy, and that was exactly what he delivered. His reign was defined by an unwavering, cold hand of light. He had eradicated the chaos of freedom in favor of the perfection of order, his influence woven into every aspect of galactic society. The Order was his pride, a collection of perfectly disciplined, supernaturally gifted agents who maintained his will across every star system. There were no more dark side threats, no more galactic civil wars. History was rewritten to praise his ascent as the necessary evolution of the Jedi. Yet, as he sat in his throne room overlooking the vast cityscape of Coruscant, Palpatine felt the toll of his choices. He was the master of all, but he was truly alone. The power he wielded had kept his body alive, but it had turned him into something beyond human. He had become the living embodiment of the Force itself. He looked out at the lights of the capital, a reflection of his own singular brilliance. He had succeeded in every objective. He had brought order to the chaos and life to the dying. He had created the perfect society. But far beyond the reaches of his gaze, a new, unexpected light began to flicker. It wasn't the light of the Jedi, nor the darkness of the Sith. It was something else. Something wild and untamable, rising from the very people he had sought to save. The 1,000-year reign had only just begun,